I was asked, "Are you a transhumanist?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Then you are not a transhumanist. You're a non-transhumanist." And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, what will you do in the future?" And I said, "The next indicated right action." Um, and my point being, I guess that uh, aren't these terms sometimes divisive? For example, I might not identify, and in fact don't identify as a transhumanist, but if a new technology came along, I tried Google Glass for the first time last month, thought it was pretty cool. If a new technology comes along that enables me to merge with or more easily communicate with the internet, or I need an artificial limb that's neurologically controlled, I'll be all for it. So just as I'm all for having a cup of coffee in the morning to jumpstart my brain so that I can start writing. So I guess my point is it really, I mean, clearly you've made the decision that to identify as a transhumanist is one way to advocate for progressive and just applications of new technologies, but isn't there an argument that might be made that just by advocating for them as they arise, that's another way to achieve the same goal?
Well, I understand the argument, and it's an old one in our progressive circles as well. I mean, I cut my teeth as a young activist as a socialist, and the question was always, well, why call yourself a socialist? Why not call yourself a progressive or an economic democrat or something? And then one of the reasons why we adopt ideological terms is because ideology has a real semi-permanent existence in the world. If one were to say, well, I'm not a socialist, but I'm for, significant redistribution of wealth and for union rights and for national health insurance and so on and so forth, people are going to say, yeah, but you're really a socialist. Similarly, if I say I'm not a transhumanist, but I'm for people's right to take cognitive-enhancing drugs, I'm for their right to use cloning once it's safe and effective, I'm for their right to do genetic engineering to make themselves super strong, people are going to say, okay, you don't say you're a transhumanist, but you really are a transhumanist. So I just go with it. It's a reality that I'm on the transhumanist end of the spectrum.
Well, okay, fair enough. And among other things, you in a past life were a Buddhist monk, right?
Right.
And so, in a sense, transhumanism is the transformation of the self that doesn't exist.
Well, my approach to the relationship of Buddhism and transhumanism is kind of summed up by Niebuhr's Serenity Prayer, which is that we should have the courage to change the things that we can, and the serenity to accept the things that we can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. And there are a lot of things about the human condition that we are increasingly capable of changing. We need the Buddhism to still live a serene life and not be overly acquisitive about the things that we will never be able to change. But Buddhism doesn't counsel that you stand there in the middle of the road while a truck runs you over. It says you can get out of the way. So similarly, yes, there is no self, but that doesn't mean that you don't get out of the way of the truck.